Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast, the space where we breathe deeply, live more intentionally, and find the meaning in the messy middle of life. I'm your host, Kendra Chapman, mom of triplets, busy professional, caffeine lover, and a big believer in slowing down so we can show up for ourselves and others fully. If you're a busy human navigating career, family, life changes, or all of the above, you're in good company. And around here, we don't chase perfection. We build rhythms that support peace, clarity, and joy. Whether you're listening during your morning commute, doing things around the house, or going for a morning jog, this space is for you. Today's episode goes deep into the most meaningful conversations about shadow work and shadow integration. I'm joined by Dr. Kelly Waggoner, a clinical psychologist, integrative wellness expert, and co-founder of Wellspring 88, a holistic wellness center where modern psychology meets ancient spiritual wisdom. With more than 2 decades of experience, Dr. Kelly has guided thousands through profound transformation, integrating mindfulness, somatic healing, and soul-centered psychology. Her work lives at the powerful intersection of science and soul, and she's part of a growing movement reshaping the way that we heal toward wholeness, authenticity, and collective transformation. In our conversation, we explore the world of shadow integration, what it is, why it matters, and how acknowledging both the dark and the golden aspects of ourselves leads to deeper healing. We discuss inner child work, the psychology behind resistance, practical tools for self-exploration, and how vulnerability strengthens our relationships. Dr. Kelly also shares her wisdom from her community at Wellspring 88 and the importance of having multiple healing modalities available on the journey inward. This one is rich, grounding, and full of aha moments. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let's jump in. Welcome to Dr. Kelly Waggoner. Thank you for being here and just sharing your wisdom with the listeners and viewers out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to dive in with you today.
Normally, I'd start off the conversation with, what are you doing right now to go slow to go fast?
Absolutely. So I have a really simple practice. I'm a meditation teacher. So of course that's my foundational practice. But right now what I'm playing with is super simple and far harder than I expected. Anytime I'm changing gears, going between tasks or whatever it might be, I'm playing with taking a pause.
Mm.
And that could be 1 to 3 breaths rather than just going. After this call, I'm actually going to go to the grocery store. When we hang up, rather than just pick up my keys and head out the door, pause in between. And what I've found is when I do it more, time expands. I end up feeling more spacious and more timelessness. I can get a lot more done. And that is this amazing thing that you've captured in the title of your podcast is when we slow down, time expands.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm playing with right now is just taking a simple pause between changing gears.
So your work is in clinical psychology, and you're also the co-founder of the Wellspring 88 program, which highlights all kinds of approaches for healing, including spiritual and somatic practices. But today we're going to be focusing on shadow integration. And so I think that's just going to be a fascinating and powerful topic for today. But before we get into all of that, could you start by explaining what shadow is in a psychological context for our listeners and viewers?
I am so happy to do so, especially because when people hear the word shadow work or shadow integration, I think it can have a little bit of a kind of intimidating tenor to it. But really, all that our shadow is anything in our authentic self that we do not consciously allow into our awareness. We don't let ourselves know or express because those parts of us at some point in our life, we figured out that those parts were not totally acceptable to either our families, our communities, and they were parts that we believed, even from a very young age, there can be this understanding that if we expressed and allowed those parts, we wouldn't quite fit in. And so often when people hear shadow, it is referring to what I call the dark shadow. So it's kind of those less socially acceptable parts. For example, the parts of us that are competitive or judgmental or, unkind, angry. But we also have underneath our awareness golden shadow, the parts of us that are our gifts that for different reasons we might also have repressed or pushed down. So we have both dark and golden shadow. And really just to summarize, it's anything in our authentic self that we push down consciously or unconsciously because we thought if we were those parts, we wouldn't quite fit in.
That's powerful. Yeah. And it gets fun to really think about, all the things that maybe you've just decided to forget about or haven't thought about in a long time.
Right. Yeah. And what's amazing about the shadow is our shadow or unconscious parts is we might, there's parts of us that we consciously repress. For example, many women I know and have worked with consciously push down their anger and only allow it to come out as like frustration or irritability or anxiety because there wasn't much space growing up to be fully expressed in our anger. But then there's also parts of our unconscious programming that we really aren't aware of. There's these programs running in the background that we don't even consciously have an awareness that we're suppressing. And the reason why it's important to do this shadow work is even if there are parts we're suppressing or aren't aware of, those aspects of ourselves are still often they're motivating our emotions. They're motivating our behaviors, our choices, our decisions. So until we're willing to kind of dive in deep and look at the parts of ourselves that maybe aren't as familiar to us, they're still there. They're just operating through unconscious programs. Maybe it would help if I gave just a really simple example of a shadow part at work. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Imagine you set a lunch date with a dear friend. And this dear friend tends to be someone who runs on the late side. And you're set to have lunch at noon and you're excited and you're the kind of person who gets there a few minutes early. It's noon. Now it's 12:10. Now it's 12:15 and you start to feel this bubbling. I'm like kind of annoyed, but okay, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. But as the time goes on, that bubbling starts to get a little more heated. Okay, I'm really frustrated. I'm really annoyed. So this is actually a shadow part starting to come up. Anything that kind of feels off. And it's an opportunity for us to pause and consider what's really going on in the background. So with shadow work, what we want to do is sort of take whatever's at the surface and begin to peel back the layers of the onion. So, okay, my friend is late. I'm feeling annoyed. Well, what's underneath that annoyance? Well, I'm feeling like she just doesn't care about me. I'm feeling not considered. But if we keep going down into the layers, when were earlier times in my life when I felt like this? Well, gosh, when I was a kid, my mom was always late picking me up from school. And I felt like I wasn't important to her. And actually, what's happening here, sitting at this lunch waiting on a much deeper level, is I'm actually tapping into a shadow part that feels hurt around not feeling important to somebody. So, it's a very simple example, but what it's showing is when we feel triggered in any way, there's usually a deeper unconscious part that if we have the space and time to go into, we can learn something about our deeper operating systems. When I feel not important to someone, it really hurts. And that's what's happening right now is I feel like I'm not important to her. I wasn't significant or special enough to be on time for. Rather than this is just annoying that she's late.
Right. Right. Yeah. And processing it and acknowledging it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go away. It just means every time that comes up again, you recognize it and then you know how
Right.
to react next time.
Right. It definitely doesn't mean it's going to go away. But what we do when we're integrating those parts is we're just becoming a lot more aware. So that when I'm sitting there and I'm feeling annoyed, when my friend arrives, I then have the conscious choice. Do I want to tell her what I'm sitting with right now? Or do I want to brush this under the rug? And so we start to bring these parts that are in the background more into the forefront so that maybe we can do something with it. And if it's a dear friend, you might say, look, I love you, but when you're chronically late, it makes me feel like I'm not important to you. And if you have a friend who's emotionally mature and can be with you in that space, now you have an opportunity to have a more authentic relationship with one another because you're not just saying you're a bad friend.
Right. Right.
It's,
Yeah.
hey, this is what's going on.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not always about us, there could be other things going on, but at least you can have that conversation and get it out there so
Totally.
you don't keep it with you and hold it, and then it becomes worse than it needs to.
Right. And the thing is, it's really not about us, right? But
Right.
we can say, this is
Yeah.
how I feel. I know that this is really your stuff, but just to be aware that when you're in your stuff, it brings up my stuff.
Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah, and if you've never talked about it, the sooner the better for when you can
Mhm.
get it out there, especially with people you feel comfortable with.
Right. Right. And that is key.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, feeling safe.
who do we share these parts with, our vulnerability with?
Yeah. No, that's huge, and I can see a lot of people out there listening kind of thinking through, okay, so I mean, I've heard about this concept of shadow work. I didn't really know what it was. And so now I have a better idea of what it is. And that's a great, easy. We don't do it, obviously, on a natural, basis or, very often. So it's something that we're going to have to work at. But now that we kind of have a better understanding of what it is, we can practice, which I think is great, and just kind of talk about it.
Right, and I think the practicing, and it's in line with the theme of your whole podcast, is slowing down. I see what's happening on the surface, but what's also happening at the deeper layers for me. And again, this isn't because people are actually wronging us but it's like, oh, these are places where now I can get in touch with hurts that maybe I wasn't even necessarily aware of and do my own work, my own self responsibility to go inward and tend to those places that feel triggered in some way.
Right. Kind of like self accountability. So, are there ways that this might hide itself and act out in a different way? Maybe it's not going to be triggered by a friend being late or a partner doing something small that seems like it's
Mhm.
small, but it's blown up in a situation like maybe over, something going on in the kitchen when the dishes aren't put away a certain way or whatever. But can it masquerade in different ways other than a trigger? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when we say the word trigger, we're thinking of someone going into those like heavier emotions like frustration, judgment, etc. But it also can masquerade as people who are walking around projecting the image that everything's fine, right? Because they might have shadow material and shadow parts typically are developed in childhood because that's when we're our most open and vulnerable and also the most dependent on the people around us to accept and love us for our literal survival. So let's say you had a child who had mom and dad modeling that everything's always fine. How are you doing? Great, right? That can also be unacknowledged shadow parts that, oh, I had modeled for me that I have to always be okay. And that there really isn't space in the people around me to be able to hold anything other than me being put together and all right. So shadow can also look like those parts of our personalities that we all have where we're scratching the surface, we're not really going deep, we're not being vulnerable, we're not being authentic. And this is so present in our culture of like really upholding an image. It's heightened, of course, with social media and, just experiment and walk around and ask 10 people how they're doing. And how many out of those 10 say anything other than fine, good, okay? And if you really ask from a place of curiosity, right? So you're really inviting, how are you? Most of those people will say, I'm fine, I'm good. Because that's also kind of in our collective shadow, especially, here in America, right? In other cultures,
Mhm.
it's not as much,
Yeah.
but here in America,
Yeah.
we've got it all figured out. We're good.
Right. Right. And then maybe the chosen few that are close to us, we're gonna share all the stuff that's really going on. But yeah, it's like, are we ever gonna get to that place where anybody off the street will know what's truly going on with us because we feel comfortable enough to share and take down that mask?
Right. And this is
Yeah.
going back to something you were saying earlier, like maybe not everyone actually
Mhm.
is someone we want to entrust that vulnerability with,
Right.
but can we bring it forward a little more often? And really what
Mhm.
I'm talking about is bringing forward our authentic self
Mhm.
a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah. Because we're modeling for everyone around us, including children. If we're going to continue, if we're going to break that cycle, I got to think about that, like, as a mom. When I say everything's fine, and it's not, my kids
Right.
know. They know because
And
we
I think
know.
there's a way to share more of our authentic self without getting bogged down in it too, right? Where it's like
Hmm.
things are mixed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's
okay.
okay.
I'm going
Hmm.
life is happening and I'm still okay. Like just bringing in a little more of that true self.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in order to bring in a little more of that true self, we have to become aware first and foremost of how we actually are. And this is the idea of shadow work. Can you make that which is unconscious, unknown, conscious, known? Because many people also walk around thinking and feeling that they're fine, but they can't figure out why they're not sleeping, why, things that they're working on aren't progressing, why, even though on paper their life looks wonderful, they're not fulfilled because there's stuff going on in the background that they're not letting themselves be aware of.
So true. And I mean, it's not just a one-time thing either. It's going to be a journey that
Oh, it's a
one would
journey.
go on.
It could be a forever journey, and we
Yeah.
don't have to leave this life healed and well, right? Like, that's actually what gives us texture is our stuff. But if we wanna live feeling a little more fulfilled, a little more whole, more clear, aware, vibrant, is now and then taking the time to slow down, peel back the layers of the onion. What's really going on here? We do begin to open up what is called in psychology our true self energy. And when we're in our true self energy, we're inherently more energetic, balanced, vibrant, courageous, compassionate. And so there's a real benefit to, from time to time, going in and figuring out what's going on in the background here. And really, a powerful way that is available many, many times a day to do this. And even if people just did it once a day, anytime you feel a little off, I am feeling a little triggered, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, to slow down and ask, like, what is it that's going on right now? And what is it here to teach me? What is this moment here to show me? What's trying to be expressed? And so that pause, and there might not be a clear knowing, but just even the acknowledgement that there's something else going on in the background when we could just get lost in the content of what's happening in our lives,
Right.
it starts to unfold a deeper sense of self.
Instead of pushing it down and repressing it, you can just simply ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me?
What is this
Whatever
trying to
this,
teach me, show me,
yeah.
tell me?
Mm,
And a way that people usually in our modern culture do a really good job of repressing is they're just really busy.
mhm.
They fill their lives with all kinds of activity and doing or scrolling or whatever it is.
Mindless, whatever the
Yeah,
mindless stuff is, because we don't have to think about it if we don't.
we don't have to slow down and
Mhm.
feel.
Yeah. 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 So if one, somebody out there listening or watching on YouTube is thinking, okay, if I ask myself one of those questions that Dr.
Mhm,
Wagner just posed, then what? What could the work look like as
mhm.
you start to kind of peel those layers back?
That's a great question with so many directions the work could go in.
Mm,
The first thing that comes to mind, and this is another big, rich topic, is what's called inner child work.
mm,
Because most of these shadow parts, the parts that we push down, did develop in childhood. When we go in, let's say, I'm going to try and think of another example. We'll use the example of someone showing up late again, right? Okay, so I was annoyed with them. I was externalizing my feelings. She's so thoughtless. She's so blah, blah, blah. I slow down. I'm sitting at lunch, so I have time. And I start to get curious about what else is going on for me. Okay, I have that part that when people aren't on time, I don't feel considered. And at an even deeper level, I think where that leads to is I don't feel important to you. Okay. So we've exposed now an programming. Okay. I'm feeling not important, even though, as we said before, probably this friend's just in her own stuff and she actually does care about us. Okay. Here's an unconscious belief. So now, if we're going to do what's called inner child work, what we can do when we realize, gosh, I'm sitting here feeling like I'm not important to her, is take a breath. If it makes sense for the environment you're in, close your eyes. As much as you can, come into the felt sense of being in your body. And because our bodies are where our experiences all live in our nervous system in our body. And see if you can locate in your body a place where that feeling is more concentrated. For people, it's typically in their chest, in their gut, or in their back. Okay, so I'm in contact right now with the feeling of not being important to this person. She doesn't care about me. Ooh, I'm feeling it in my chest. Because we know that most shadow parts are created in childhood, can we now go be with this feeling that is concentrated in our chest and just sit with it metaphorically, with the breath, with our presence, like an ideal mother would be with a hurt child. What's going on for you right now? What are you feeling? Tell me what's hurting. And then most importantly, what do you need right now? And so in this inner child paradigm, my being is taking on the role of like the perfect compassionate parent and talking to my hurt shadow part as a child, a wounded child, an inner child. And when people start this form of inner child work, often it feels a little silly and a little contrived. But when you allow yourself to go into it, to just play with this energy of being the witness to this hurt part, what happens for most people is they start to hear, not through their normal cognitive mind, but through more of just an awareness, the whispers of an answer, right? Okay, yeah, I am hurt right now. I remember how it feels to not be picked up on time at school. I remember that feeling of being the kid waiting on the curb. And there might not even be a specific memory to harken back to, and that's fine. But I just had this vague sense of being this kid who didn't feel important all the time in the way that I needed to. Okay, so now as the self that is sort of taking on the ideal parent role, okay, what do you need? What do you need right now? I just need you to acknowledge and witness what I'm feeling. Or I need you to bring compassion and warmth to me. And so we work this inner dialogue in inner child work between our, in this case, hurt child and our ideal wise adult self. So inner child dialoguing with wise adult can start to actually bring healing into our shadow parts that are hurt. And it's a slow process. It's a forever process. But if it's resonating with people that this is a way they feel inspired to start being with deeper parts of themselves and bringing in some healing energy, it's really actually a simple practice of slowing down, coming into the present moment, dropping into the body, finding where this feeling is concentrated in the body. So this is now called somatic awareness. Where is this concentrated? And then beginning the dialogue between the hurt inner child and the wise adult.
Yeah. And so for somebody who doesn't really feel comfortable meditating, hasn't really added any kind of stillness or, meditation into their practice, they could literally just ask themselves how they feel. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be you sit for 10 minutes in silence and then something's going to come to you. It could look different for, you know, different people.
Another really powerful tool for people who aren't up for sitting in meditation is what's
Mhm.
called
Mhm.
automatic writing,
Mhm.
where you set a timer on your phone. Usually the amount of time I think is most potent is about 7 minutes. And you do what's called stream of consciousness writing, where, like in this instance, you can say, okay, what am I feeling? That becomes the automatic writing prompt. And you take pen to paper is more powerful than keyboard, but however works for people. And you sit and you write without, you basically want your pen to be moving quicker than your thinking mind so that you begin to uncover what's going on the deeper levels. So automatic or stream of consciousness writing is another really powerful tool for uncovering the unconscious aspects of ourselves. But yes, it could be as simple as what am I feeling? The reason why it can be beneficial to still then bring in a deepening practice is that first layer, that first answer of how am I feeling is usually not what's really going on, right? It's usually something like, oh, I'm just frustrated with her. This is annoying. Yeah, true. And what else is going on? So if people have a little space and time, which isn't going to be all the time or even every day, to try a tool like going inward, asking the self, or doing some stream of consciousness writing, they're
Mhm.
going to begin to discover more interesting aspects, deeper aspects
Yeah.
of themselves.
Yeah, because when I find if I make time for that, it could look like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however much time I can carve out in my day. If I can do 30, great,
Mm,
but that's a luxury for a lot of people.
sure.
But just 5 minutes a day could really uncover something, and then the next time you do it, you could really break through multiple layers because you've already asked yourself, "Why? Where am I feeling it? Why am I feeling it? How am I? All the different questions you can come up with to kind of, peel that layer, the onion back. But then once you get there, Dr. Wagner, what what might people expect to feel, or how might they feel if it's working?
Relief,
Okay.
relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a reason why people don't slow down and feel is there's a fear that when they slow down and feel, it's going to be overwhelming.
hmm The floodgates are
A
coming, and
flood,
I
I
just
hear
don't.
that all the time. If I
Yeah.
open this up, I'm never going to stop crying,
Yeah.
raging, despairing. And while that can be the case for a very short period of time, that there's an initial wave of overwhelm, there's an amazing piece of research that says if we can stay with a feeling without attaching our thoughts to it for 60 to 90 seconds, the volume on that feeling turns down significantly. The key is not getting into the content, but can we just really be in the body from the inside out, feeling that feeling? I feel so not important. Okay, I'm not going to get into the content of what she did or what she didn't do. I'm just going to feel it in my body. And after that initial wave of discomfort, people land in relief. And relief is lightening. It's like I can breathe a little deeper. I can unwind, like your shoulders might even drop down and back. There's this literal somatic shift when people allow themselves to slow down, feel without this, and kind of you'd have to kind of go through it, and then relief. It's not, and it's sometimes, people need to do this when they're starting out with a therapist just to have a safe space to be held, but really you can do it on your own.
hmm hmm
Don't need a therapist necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've already shared at least three different ways that the listener and the viewers out there, can try this on your own. And I've tried a couple of these. I've also done tapping
Mhm.
recently, and I've noticed a change just in some thoughts that would come up pretty frequently. They're not coming up anymore as much,
Mm.
or or at all. And the places in my body where I thought I had pain and it was just chronic, not there anymore. My husband
Isn't
even
that
said,
amazing?
yeah, like yesterday, my husband was rubbing the back of my shoulders, and he was like, "I don't feel any knots." And I'm like, "Well, I'm sore, but yeah, I feel different."
So, not to be too highfalutin, but where this really leads is liberation.
Mm,
True internal freedom. We have more adaptability, fluidity. We can have what's called in certain traditions equanimity, where no
mm,
matter what's going on in our
mhm,
world, we can stay
yeah,
steady and clear,
right,
because we're not getting tangled up in our stuff that we haven't been wanting to look at.
right.
We feel it and we move through.
Mhm, mhm, and we can't control what others do, or how they feel, or how they react to us, and all that. But all we can do is control how we, or not even control, all we can do is support, I guess, is a different type of way
Yeah,
to think about it. The way we react to things and the way we decide to show up.
totally. And, I 100% agree with you. We can only control ourselves, our behavior, our way of showing up in the world. And something, because I worked with couples in couples therapy for many, many years. And what I would teach the couples I work with is we also all contain a superpower. And the superpower to not control, but have a chance of being an influence on the people we care about is vulnerability. When we can say to someone, not, "You did this, you made me feel this way," rather, "I'm feeling, I'm in this thing right now." Yes, we can't control the person's response, but I would say it increases the person we care about, their receptivity to what we're saying significantly. But we can only express vulnerability when we know. We can't make it up because the people can feel that. So when I've had couples in my office
Mhm.
and they're performing vulnerability, the
Yeah.
other person's not buying it, right?
No.
But
Right.
when I have people who are willing to go inward,
Mhm.
willing to feel their stuff, and then express, you know what? When you didn't show up, I know you had stuff going on, but I just need to let you know I sit there feeling like I'm not important to you. You do increase the chances that you're going to be heard. So, no, we can't control how people respond, but we can, through the superpower of expressing from truth and vulnerability, have more of a chance of them being open and receptive to what we're saying.
Yeah, and that's big. Because I mean, we have to meet people halfway. So if we can show up as our authentic self, that's going to take down a lot of layers.
It does. It just softens.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
softens everybody involved.
Yeah.
Not always. There's some personality structures. No matter how you say something, they're not going to want to hear it. But more
Sure.
often,
Of course. We're not providing you all kinds of secrets on how to win an argument over here. We're just letting you figure out how to work through your stuff. But,
yeah,
one step at a time, right? I think Dr. Wagner, you're doing great work out there. Your program, it sounds like there's lots of opportunities for women and men to find wellness strategies. And your Wellspring 88 nonprofit
yeah.
foundation.
So Wellspring 88, we're located in Los Angeles County in California, and we're this small brick and mortar. We call ourselves a Center for Conscious and Authentic Living, where people can come and try out all different ways of coming into deeper contact with themselves. So we have things like breath work, yoga, meditation, sound healing, which are our daily class experiences. And then we also have deeper programs. I run a series called The Tools, where I teach strategies that blend psychology and some more like spiritual practices together to help people evolve and become who they are meant to be. And then we have longer intensive women's programs. They're all in person. So if people aren't in LA County, they wouldn't get to explore them. But we are expanding in the new year into a lot more online offerings. And one of the things I really believe in and am working on developing is combining psychological tools with meditation or mindfulness practices where I'm going to start releasing recorded guided meditations where people can, for example, one of them's an inner child meditation. So it'll be a 20 to 30-minute guided session where I take them through all the steps of going inward and meeting their inner child and then being with their inner child. And so it's a it's one of the reasons I'm moving into this and actually a little bit away from talk therapy is in talk therapy, I saw the limitations of just working through the mind, the thinking mind. It's wonderful understanding, knowing our why provides such an important foundation for all the deeper work. And while for some people it's sufficient, for other people it's not. I have had so many people over the years say a version of, even though I understand myself, nothing's changing. Even though I get why I'm doing this, why can't I change the pattern? And the reason is because understanding isn't in and of itself often enough to create change. And so, why I like combining Western psychology with meditation is when we drop into a meditative state, we actually bypass the thinking mind. And so it creates a more sort of an imaginal realm where people can come into deeper access with parts of themselves that they might not be able to make contact with just through their thinking mind. So that's going to be something we're going to have starting next year in 2026. And it's going to be a journey. People can find what they resonate with. One of the reasons why we offer so many different things at Wellspring 88 is we know different things are going to be a fit for different people. We have no expectation that any one thing is for everybody. And so these meditations are another way of just offering a different way to go inward, go deeper,
Mhm.
feel become more authentic and true.
Yeah. And I think as inner child work becomes more mainstream, I think, you know, I'm hearing more of it out there. And I think, if nothing else, there might be some curious folks, that want to learn more. So, and all that information would be out on your website around the new
Yeah,
year.
we have our main website is wellspring88.com.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a nonprofit foundation. So we have our for-profit, which is our brick and mortar, which supports our nonprofit, which is a fund to support people accessing any healing modality that's not covered by insurance, because that's a lot of them. So, I know my life has really benefited from all the different things I've got to experience. And that's not the case for most people. That, these are really sort of high price of admission things that I've gotten to do over the years. So we support people going on retreats or getting certifications in different practices or working with, skilled somatic body workers, whatever it might be, because there are so many paths to healing and a lot of them are not covered by our insurance.
And yes, I agree. Insurance can be a barrier, yes, to some of these experiences. So thank you for that work as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And that's a great reminder because as, all of us out there in our day to day, if you have things stacked up, meetings all day long, whether it be in the home or out in the world, just you have a permission to pause from Dr.
Mission
Waggoner
to pause.
and me.
Yes.
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 Aw, I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before I let you go? I know you're busy and you've got to get to the store and do some grocery shopping.
No, I think just not every approach is for everybody, and people might feel some resistance to some of the things we were talking about today.
Mhm.
Get curious even about your resistance. I don't
Mhm.
think that'll work. I don't get it. Our resistance teaches us as much as things that resonate with us. So before you write off shadow work or inner child work, just
Mhm.
get curious about what the blocks are. And if it's a true block, forget it. But if maybe there's something that's actually kind of irritating you, it might be just the thing
Right.
to get curious about. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Very true. Thank you. I appreciate your time, Dr. Wagner. So I'm curious to hear feedback if you guys have any feedback for us. And I'll put all of Dr. Wagner's contact information and mine in the show notes so you can follow up and let us know how it's going. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. I hope that you feel inspired and empowered by Dr. Kelly Wagner's wisdom to take proactive steps towards your own well being and that inner work. I'll make sure that all the links will be in the show notes for you if you want to learn how to connect with Dr. Kelly or me. And of course, you can always go to my website, www.coachingwithkendrachapman.com, or check out my YouTube channel, Kendra Chapman Living 123. And I just want to say thank you for being here. I know that you have lots of opportunities, lots of podcasts are out there. There's lots of ways that you can get your content and information. So I'm truly blessed that you're here listening today to me, no matter when or where that you choose to do that. It's definitely a blessing that you've chosen to listen to me for this last bit of time. So thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't already, I hope that you'll go out to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Or if you're listening on this podcast, make sure that you're subscribing so you never miss another episode. So let's walk through this season, whatever it is, with confidence, purpose, and a little extra grace. And if you loved this episode, I hope that you'll share it with a friend who could use a little moment of calm, clarity, or courage on their healing journey. And as always, remember, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Until next time, go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.